that process as well. Now we're very lucky we have 3 carvers who work in here all the time. There's 3 carvers working on this pole here. Over here on the right, that's the workspace of Norman Nat Kong Jr. Now he's a Haida carver. You see some of his work on his table here. He has a booklet with his works in it as well. He's one of the gentlemen making this pole. Now this middle spot here, that's Mike Milne's table. Now he's a Tsimshian carver, and he's been practicing around the same time as Norman, 20 years. And again, he's one of the gentlemen making this pole here. Over on the left, that's the space of Nathan Jackson, and he is a Tlingit master carver. Now, he's a master carver for a good reason, because he's been carving for over 60 years. So he has works all over the world, and you can see a lot of them in his booklet right there on his table. Now, while the carvers are in here, they work with 3 primary woods, and the first of those is the western red cedar. The red cedar is known as the tree of life, because you get a lot of uses out of it. Now, the first one is the bark. So you can only take about 1/3 of the bark off a living tree. If you want to keep it alive and you want to keep it healthy. But this bark can be used to weave things that you have already seen, like the cedar hats the dancers were wearing up in the clan house. Now this can protect your eyes from the sun. If you weave it tightly enough, it can protect your head from the rain. The cedar is very rain resistant, and it's also a good bug repellent. Cedar is a good natural bug repellent as well. You could make different kinds of clothes, bands like headbands, bracelets, and even ropes. Cedar rope can be very strong. But the second use of the tree of life is its log, which we'll use for large things like totem poles, our big canoes, and our buildings like the clan house and the one we're in right now as well, which is why you get a pretty strong smell. But those are all very large things. For smaller projects, you're going to want to use the yellow cedar. And the reason you'll use the yellow cedar is because of its tighter grain. So if you're carving a smaller project, you get a lot more detail on it than you would with most other woods. So you'll use yellow for things like dancing paddles, rattles, masks, and bent wood art, like bent wood boxes. Now, bentwood boxes are super cool. They're only made of 3 pieces: the bottom, the lid, and then the middle 4 sides. Now, those middle 4 sides will start as a flat board like this. You can see it's notched in 3 places, and it's going to be steam bent in on itself until the 2 ends meet. They'll connect to the 2 ends using wooden dowels, and traditionally we use halibut skin glue to connect the ends as well. Nowadays we find a different kind of animal glue. Gorilla glue works a lot better nowadays, but I never told you that. And you can see here where the 2 ends are connected, right there. But this is made of 1 piece of wood. So if you do that well enough, once the bottom and the lid are added on, that could be air and watertight. Your most valuable items could go in a bentwood box. In my case, my baby teeth are in a really tiny bentwood box. You can make them large and small as well. And they'll usually have art all the way around them. Now the third wood here, you see it's a bit smaller. This is the red alder. It looks like a birch tree until you cut into it. You see the red on the inside. This is used primarily for the handles of our tools, for tool use, because this wood here hardens greatly when it dries. So the tool will keep the same general shape, about that 45-degree angle. They could custom fit it to their hand. Once you have the blade on the end here, you'll get the adze. And here we have the first of 3 adze. I'll go over with you guys. This is the elbow adze. And this is what gives you the nice smooth finish across the totem poles and on the clan house as well. Because we did not have things like sandpaper a real long time ago. So to get a splinter-free surface on your carving, you'll use this and individually cut out that splinter-free surface. So if I rub my hand on the face of the pole here, I won't get any splinters. Does it look like I'm rubbing it hard? Good. So that's the use of that tool there. Now the second one that we have here is the lip adze. And you can see it has a wider blade. It has 2 lips on the end. That gives it the name, the lip adze. And you'll use this earlier on in the process than this. because you'll get the big, large chunks off of the wood using the lip adze here. The third one that we got, this is the ship adze. You see it's shaped more like an axe, because you're going to really swing with this tool. You'll hollow out the inside of canoes and the backs of totem poles with the ship adze. Why do you hollow out the backs of totem poles? Well, the red cedar here, which we use for our totem poles, it rots from the inside out. So carving out the back of it down to the center will make the totem last much longer. It also makes it a lot lighter, because young men like me have to be the ones to lift the pole when it's time to raise it. So it makes our job easier as well. So the carving will be done while the pole's laying flat like this. It'll also be painted while it's laying flat like this. And I'll go over 3 of our traditional colors with you guys. We did not have a local paint store hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So you have this reddish brown color. That would be made using iron oxide. So think of a rust. Now this teal bluish green, that would be iron silicate, or rarely copper oxide. So think like the Statue of Liberty, that kind of color. And this deep black, that's charcoal or coal. You get that charcoal from a fire, you could imagine. So this would usually be the easiest color to get. Now, this would be a job for the ladies of the village traditionally. They're going to crush those rocks up into fine powders, and they're going to get fish eggs from fresh water. Now they'll take all these fish eggs and put them in their mouth, and they're going to chew them up. And they'll mix all of the oil coming from the eggs with their saliva. Now they're going to spit that saliva and oil mixture into the crushed up minerals. And once you blend that up, you get your first form of oil-based paint, which can last very long on the face of a totem. But you might be able to guess the ladies of the village do not really want to do that anymore. I wouldn't want to chew up raw eggs either. So we're pretty lucky that Ace is the place. They're going to give us the paints that we use on our poles today. And think of it like exterior paint. The same paint you'll use on the outside of your house is the same paint we're going to use on the poles. But we will keep to those traditional colors like we've done for the generations and generations previous. So like I said, the pole is finished while it's laying down like this. So how are you going to raise it up? Well, you can see a diagram right back here. Now they're going to leave a hole in the ground that's about 6 to 8 feet deep. And a long time ago, they would have left 6 to 8 feet at the bottom of the pole blank. That's what would have went into the ground, and that's what would have anchored it in. But you can imagine that's much more exposed to the elements. Water will come up through it, and it'll rot, it'll fall apart way quicker. So we use a different piece in the ground now, a separate pole. It'll be metal, it could be creosote log, but that's another reason we hollow out the back. So you can hoist it up, put a bolt through it, and attach it to a separate piece in the ground instead. So you see here an A-frame built above it with groups in the front and groups in the back. Now the people in the back are hoisting it up, really lifting the pole, while the people in the front are making sure that it stays straight, so it's pointing right into the sky. Now the carver can have a pretty important job as well. They'll have the tools they use to make the pole around their waist with their traditional regalia on, like we saw our dancers wearing. They'll be dancing to the beat of the drum that the pole is being raised to. And as I mentioned with the mystery pole, usually once the pole is completely standing, that is when the story of it will be told to everyone, because you want to pass down that word of mouth transition. Even if it's a remake of a previous pole, a story that's already been told, like this one here, you'll still retell the story if you're making the new pole. But you see this process is very much alive and well today, and it's passed down from the older generations to the younger and younger. I mean, this is really the school. I mean, anyone could become a carver. I mean, it's not like your uncle has to be a carver or your great-great-grandfather has to be a carver. If you're interested in learning, then this is where you learn. And you work with more experienced carvers until you're one of those experienced carvers. So it's very cool to see that in action when the carvers are working in here. I wish you guys could see them today, but Nathan actually plays harmonica in his church. So he's usually not here on days like this. But pretty cool we get to see this in here. There's not always a totem pole in action being built in this carving center, or at least a very large one like this. But don't worry guys, if you were interested in getting a totem pole for yourself, this one's not going to fit in your suitcase, but they make smaller ones as well. So there are business cards on either of their tables. There's even examples of jewelry in some of their booklets. So they make all kinds of art and it's very beautiful. And I thank you guys for coming. Now, we have a bit of free time, guys, and we have about 15 minutes of it. You guys' driver is going to want you guys to be heading out of here by 2:30. So you guys have your clocks,